quite sure that you noticed just behind me there's something a bit different about my background. It's nothing to do with all the books, they're all the same as always. It's this, isn't it? This great big basket. And this big basket is here because before I tell you the story, I'm going to ask you a bit about what I might have in this basket. What do you think it is? Well, I'll tell you, it's a picnic basket. It's a great big picnic basket, look. Well, it seems big to me anyway. It is our picnic basket, and we usually take plates and a rug and maybe something to play with and the food all in that basket because it's so big it fits everything. But I wonder, what sort of things do you think would be great to have in a picnic basket? What sort of food would you like? Have a shout out. You tell me something you'd really like in a picnic. Okay, I can't hear you, but I'm guessing that you maybe said you'd like sandwiches in a picnic, or cakes in a picnic, or something to drink in a picnic, or crisps in a picnic, or even chocolate in a picnic. I have to say, that's what I would like in my picnic. If I had to choose, it would be all those things. But I'm going to play a game of Would You Rather with you. So, what I'm going to give you is two alternatives. And to be honest, I bet you won't want either of them. But let's have a wee shot. Okay, would you rather have a worm sandwich or a beetle cake? Which would you rather have? Bet you wouldn't want either. Okay, would you rather have a squid sausage roll or a bug in your juice? I suppose you like either of those either. Okay, would you rather have a frog spawn sandwich or a tadpole sandwich? Neither of those? All of those things are pretty awful, and you wouldn't want to have them in a picnic or have to eat them at all, would you? Well, today I'm going to tell you about somebody who thought some foods were just horrible and he wasn't going to eat them, and then he learned that perhaps he should. I think God said to him, would you rather something or would you rather nothing at all? So you just wait and I will tell you the story. Are you ready? Okay. So I've got the picnic basket out of the way because, to be honest, it was digging into my shoulder. So today's story is about somebody that we heard about a little while back, and his name was Peter. And you know that Peter was a great friend of Jesus, and we know that Peter went and healed somebody with his friend John. Do you remember he went to a synagogue and he healed somebody who was lame? Well, this is another story about Peter, because Peter didn't just do a few things. Peter was a great big leader in the church, and he was a leader in the church when it was just beginning to come together. So he taught a lot of people a lot of things about Jesus, and he travelled around, just like, well, you might remember somebody else called Paul. He was like Paul. He didn't travel quite as much, but he did travel. And this is a story about when he went to a place called Joppa. Now, when he got to Joppa, he stayed in somebody's house. He stayed in the house of someone called Simon the Tanner. Now, that's quite funny because you might remember that Peter used to be called Simon Peter. Now he was known as Peter, but there he was staying in the house of somebody who was called Simon. Must have been funny for him to think, that used to be my name. Anyway, there he was in the house of Simon the Tanner. I don't know, do you know what a tanner does? A tanner takes animal skins and makes them into leather. That was his job. So Peter stayed with him. And at midday, Peter went up to pray. Now, he didn't go up a hill. He went up the stairs, but he didn't go into a bedroom because he didn't go up the stairs inside the house. He went up the stairs outside the house, because I don't remember if you maybe know, but a lot of the houses in Peter's time were flat, like that, and they had a flat roof that people used to be able to go up and sit on the top of the roof where it was slightly cooler because it's so hot in some of those countries. And so Peter went up the outside steps to go up onto the roof of the house so he could pray, because he just wanted to be on his own, to talk to God and just listen for what God had to say to him. So he sat down on the top of this roof and he started to pray, and then he saw a vision. Now that means he wasn't asleep and he wasn't dreaming, but it was sort of in an in-betweeny state, because God had a message for him. And God sent this vision or message. As Peter sat there, a tablecloth came down in front of him. He saw a beautiful white linen sheet like a tablecloth, like a picnic was being set out in front of him on that roof. And on that tablecloth, on that cotton, all sorts of animals were put. All sorts of animals that Peter didn't want to eat, because he did eat some kind of animals, but there were lots and lots that his Jewish law said that he must never eat because they were not good. A bit like a worm sandwich, but a bit posher with rules. So when Peter saw all of those animals ready, like not just lying there, but in the form that they could be eaten on plates, kind of meat, he was astonished. He couldn't think what on earth they were doing there. And then he heard God saying that he should eat from any of the plates with any of the meats on them. And Peter said, I can't do that, because some of that meat is, well, what we call unclean, he said. The sort of food that we were told in the old stories from the law that we're not allowed to eat. And the tablecloth was brought back up and taken away from him. But Peter wasn't finished praying, so he stayed. And lo and behold, the tablecloth came back down again with the same pieces of meat from the same animals. And the voice said again, you can eat any of this food. Would you rather have one of these plates, or would you rather have nothing? And Peter said, I just don't understand, because I can't eat that stuff because I'm not allowed to under rules. So the tablecloth was lifted back up again, and it came down a third time, and Peter very clearly heard God's voice saying, Peter, all the food that I put in front of you is all good. I'm the one who's in charge, and if I say you can eat any of this food, you can eat any of this food. You mustn't let silly rules get in the way and make you think that the rules are more important than what I have to tell you. You just think about that, Peter. And the tablecloth was taken away again. And Peter did think about that. And he did wonder, what on earth was God telling him that for? Because he was sitting on top of a roof of a house called someone called Simon, who was feeding him the sort of food that he was quite expecting to get. So he prayed and he said, God, I'm not sure I understand what you're getting at, but God, I'm in your hands, and there's a very good reason for whatever it is you did. So he went back down the outside stairs, and he went back into Simon's house. And I expect he thought, well, here we are, I'm going to have my afternoon snack, or I'm going to wait and I'm going to have dinner and everything will be back to normal. And when he got into Simon's house again, there were 3 complete strangers there. What a surprise. When he'd gone up onto the top of the roof, there was just Simon in the house. And when he came back down, suddenly there's 3 people he's never seen before in his life. And they said, are you Peter? Peter said, well, yes, I am. Why are you asking? And they said, we've come from a man called Cornelius, and we need you to come with us. And it's quite a long journey, and you need to come. Please, he's asking for you. And Peter said, all right, I will come. Because Peter always wanted to tell people about Jesus, and he thought, this sounds like a very good opportunity to go and tell someone else about Jesus. And so Peter got ready to set off to leave Joppa, to leave Simon in his house, and to go off on a journey with these three strangers that he'd never met before, because he trusted God to be showing him the right thing to be doing. And so he set off on his journey, and you'll have to wait till next week to find out why he was going on the journey, who Cornelius was, and what was the point of that tablecloth with all the different kinds of meats being set down in front of him. Because God doesn't do anything without planning ahead, and God had already planned all this story of Peter. Even though Peter didn't know where he was going, God knew exactly where Peter was going, and he knew exactly what it was that Peter was going to need to be able to do. I wonder if you can guess what Peter was going to have to be able to do. Well, you won't have to guess if you come back next week, because you'll find out what the end and actually what the beginning of this story is. See you next week. Bye.